Hi, welcome to Super Zero 89's MMORPG Gaming and Opinions page. And today we're going to be talking about the raging debate between the casual gamer and the hardcore gamer. Now, I've been playing MMOs for quite a long period of time. My first MMO was the original EverQuest, but I got into it kind of late in the game. I wasn't someone that played, pre-Kunark and the Kunark and the Velius era all the way up into Shadows of Lucklin. And I actually started in about 2003, 2004-ish, somewhere around in there. Planes of Power was in full swing, and I believe shortly after I started, Legacy of Yakesha came out. So I kind of joined towards the tail end of EverQuest's heyday. But I think I've played enough of it during its heyday to know the difference between what I think most people would consider more hardcore MMO and a more casual MMO. Prior to World of Warcraft, MMOs were almost entirely group centric. If you wanted to get anything done, from a simple quest to leveling up, no matter what it was, you had to, in almost all circumstances, you almost had to have another player, at least one other player to group with you. And oftentimes it never was advantageous unless you had a full group. Sitting in one spot, grinding experience for hours and hours and hours. Some days you would log in, you would never be able to find a group. Then you would just pretty much log out in disgust, or your whole day would be wasted. Your experience points, every time you die, you lost experience. You stood a chance to losing your gear. But it never really, I still enjoyed the game, and it never really crossed my mind that, hey, this is some really hardcore stuff here. This is some, like, why am I putting up with this? This is crazy, because it was the only thing that we had at the time. If we wanted to play an MMORPG, that's what we had to deal with, and it made sense because if you go out to a certain area and you die and you can't find your corpse, well, you have to interact. Keyword interaction in a multiplayer game. Fancy that. You had to interact with, say, a necromancer and pay that necromancer some money to have him come and summon your corpse for you so you can loot the items off your corpse. Or maybe perhaps res yourself and get back some of your lost experience. A lot of those systems worked really well. And then along comes World of Warcraft in about 2004 or so, that changes the game entirely. Gone are the days of grinding out mobs over and over again, standing in one spot. Gone are the days of having to be in a group for everything that you do. And its place was quest grinding. And originally, I don't think Blizzard's devs actually intended it for it to be grinding per se. The idea behind the quest is, hey, I'm going to log in for about 30 minutes. I'm going to complete this quest, and I'm going to get a reward for it, and I'm going to feel like I've, done something worthwhile. It didn't quite work out that way. Actually, it ended up being just another form of a grind, in that you usually would throughout one single level, you would probably do, upwards of 50 to 100 or so quests once you got up into the level range, a high level range. But the fact of the matter is, those quests were easy, and you could do them solo, which was a direct contrast from EverQuest and previous games. And this kind of set up the whole hardcore versus casuals debate. Casuals think, oh, games should be hard, you should have to focus, you should have to research, learn how to play your class, learn how to complete the encounter, the raid encounter, research, learn the fight mechanics. And casuals just kind of want to log in, and they want to play. They don't want to have to really put in a lot of time and effort into research, a lot of time and effort into learning how to min and max their class. They just want to, just log in for a few hours, bash some heads, log out, and go on with their daily lives. And, but of course, there are differing opinions as to what exactly constitutes casual. A lot of people will say, well, a casual gamer is not necessarily uh, the casual versus hardcore debate doesn't necessarily have as much to do with as much time as you put into it. And I might say, I'm not so sure. I mean, um, you can be a casual gamer, um, or you can be. Let me say this: you can be a hardcore gamer and not really play that much. But when you do play, you're serious about it. You complete every quest that you need. Um, all the optional quests you do. You get the best armor for your character. You know exactly what you have to have. You know, you research, you learn the fight mechanics. Even though those people don't really play that much, I would still consider them hardcore versus casual, because they put time and effort into learning the game. Whereas a casual, I'm making casual sound really bad, but I don't mean to. I consider myself a casual myself. And a casual is more like somebody that just wants to log in and play, whether they're logging in all day or whether they're logging in for a couple of hours. They don't want to have to devote the time to learning how to play a game, to being challenged per se, to be hitting their head up against a brick wall over and over and over again, possibly never being able to complete an encounter simply because they lack the skill. That to me is a casual gamer. I myself am a casual gamer. I just don't care about having to really research, into a game that much. I mean, I'm a college student. I take 6 classes a semester. You can figure that up. That's, 16 hours, 17 hours, 18, 19, 20 hours even. It's, some semesters. Um, I I don't really have that much time to play an MMO during school, and even less time if I'm playing an MMO to sit down and research how I'm gonna play my class, what specs I need, this and that, and just min max my character. And that's why I just cannot get into games like Eve Online and other, or Darkfall maybe, just more sandboxy, skill based MMOs, simply because it's too much to have to learn. I prefer how WoW. I prefer the ease of WoW, where you can sort of jump in and play. I loved EverQuest when I played it when I was in junior high and high school. I loved grouping with other people, spending all night long, questing, or not questing, but spending all night long, with my guild mates, grinding out XP, talking to them, socializing. I loved that aspect of MMOs. But the fact of the matter remains, the fact of the matter is, when I look back on all the hours that I spent logged into EverQuest in my junior high years when I was in junior high and high school, I it's not healthy for any one person to spend that much time in a video game. And those video games, EverQuest and Ultima Online and Dark Age of Camelot, Anarchy Online, the first generation of popular MMOs, required such a time commitment. I can see it as being incredibly difficult to get anywhere in those games and actually have not only a social life but also a professional life. Like I said, I'm going to college. I'm trying to, study hard and get a good job once I get out of school. And then once I get a good job, I'm going to want to, spend a lot of time working so that I can, advance to an even better job. And I don't have time to devote to playing, a video game, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. So I love how I can just log into WoW, press a button, queue for a dungeon, run some dungeons, get some badges, trade the badges in for some tiered gear, and maybe even raid once or twice. I love that about WoW. I love how WoW has really become the de facto, the go-to MMORPG for casual players. Because that's the marketplace. That's who Blizzard needs to attract. That's where the money is. The money is not within the small but vocal minority that makes up the more hardcore gamers, as history has proven. And I think a lot of MMOs that have come down the pipe recently, Rift. Let's use Rift as the prime example. They they copy so much from WoW, but what they don't copy is its accessibility to the casual gamer. There's so many things in Rift that are just absolutely infuriating when I compare them to WoW. Mob density in Rift is insane. I cannot, it's so difficult just to go to one area and complete a quest because you're bum rushed by 3 and 4 and 5 mobs at a time when you're just trying to get to one mob, and then you die, and then you have to respawn, and you come back, and then you die, and you respawn, and you come back, and it's just it's ridiculous. And even when you're not having that specific problem, you're still actually having to kill the same, all these different mobs that may or may not even have anything to do with the quest you're on, simply because you're trying to clear a path to your quest mob or to your quest update. And it's just like I said, it's absolutely infuriating, And in Rift, if you're riding your mount in a low, if you're level 50 and you're riding your mount through the newbie area, mobs will knock you off your mount in about one hit, and that is incredibly frustrating. And even packs of mobs, if you just stood in the middle of them and didn't attack them, they could kill you, and they would kill you relatively fast. You can't even, like, as a level 50, you can't even run a level 20, or you can't even solo a low-level dungeon without great difficulty. And I just don't understand that. I don't understand why you want to make your game difficult almost for the just for the sake of being difficult. I believe that WoW is as popular as it is because it is so casual friendly, and they make the game even more casual friendly. And that's why when Cataclysm came out, or let's just say Ghostcrawler, one of the lead game designers for Blizzard and WoW, when he decided that Cataclysm would bring back some, quote, difficulty, unquote, to WoW, a lot of people or there was a lot of gamers that were extremely excited. They're like, oh yeah, WoW's finally going to be hard again, which, oh, by the way, is hilarious, considering if you ever followed MMOs when WoW was released. WoW has always been considered an easy game, at least in terms of at least when you compare it to EverQuest and others. So I don't really understand where all this is coming from about WoW being so easy now compared to how it being so hard before. However, previously, with Wrath of the Lich King, the design philosophy was everyone pays the same subscription fee, so everyone should have access to the content, and that's the way it worked. It really was not hard at all to get a basic concept of your class, or basic enough to be able to succeed in a dungeon environment, or in the raid environment. Cataclysm, not so much. The Dungeon Finder was still relatively recent, and with the advent of Cataclysm, dungeons were hard, players would die, at the first pull even, and you had to emphasize crowd control, and a lot of things that players just never really had to worry so much about before. And it was like hitting a brick wall for a lot of people. And it really, and if you want to ask me where a good portion of that 300,000 or so subscribers that WoW lost not too long ago, if you want to ask me where those people went, I'll tell you where they went. They all left because they thought WoW was too hard. That's the casual gamers. And of course, a great many of them also left when they tried to make the game easier again. So in effect, Blizzard ended up pleasing no one. But that's really the mistake that a lot of MMOs make. They copy WoW down to the T, but they just fail to make it as accessible as WoW. And that is really why WoW will most likely continue to be the top MMO. Even though the Old Republic and Guild Wars 2 are coming out, unless they learn this lesson, unless they learn that to be a success, you have to appeal to the casual gamer, you have to appeal to that casual market. If they develop a holier-than-thou attitude and they say they're not interested in the casual, they want to make their game difficult, they want to make it hard, they want to make it a challenge, their game will fail.